Presence is not a goal. It is what remains when the noise fades. When you stop chasing time, you meet eternity here in this moment. Welcome to Osho Motivation. This is living in presence, the power of now and still awareness. Presence is not something you need to learn. It is what you already are beneath the noise, beneath the movement, beneath thought. Presence is the silent witness behind every breath you take. It has always been here. You can spend your whole life searching for peace, reading, meditating, praying. But peace was never far away. It was hiding behind the constant commentary of the mind. When the mind grows quiet, peace doesn't arrive, it is revealed. The mind always lives in time. It drags you into the past and pushes you into the future. It never lets you rest in the now. And yet, the now is the only place where life exists. The past is a shadow. The future is a dream. The present is real. It is alive. It is this, the sound of your breath, the space between two heartbeats, the gentle hum of existence. When you begin to live in presence, you feel as if you have been asleep all your life, dreaming of what was and what might be, while missing what is. But when you awaken to this moment, you realize that life was never waiting for you. It has always been here, dancing, breathing, pulsing, and now you are finally awake enough to join the dance. Presence is not about doing, it is about being. You cannot try to be present, because the effort to be present is itself a movement away from presence. Presence happens when you stop trying, when you drop the struggle, when you stop chasing after something to fix. The mind falls silent, and what remains is awareness. Awareness is the space that contains everything, every sound, every thought, every emotion, every sensation. Nothing needs to be excluded. Nothing needs to be denied. Even the noise of your mind can be seen within awareness. When you are aware of the noise, you are already free from it. This is the paradox. You do not escape the mind by fighting it. You transcend it by watching it. Awareness is the great dissolver. It does not destroy, it illuminates. And what it illuminates loses its power over you. The moment you observe your thought, you are no longer lost inside it. The observer is always free. The thought may continue for a moment, but it no longer controls you. You are no longer a prisoner of imagination. Presence is a kind of seeing. Seeing without interpretation, seeing without the filter of me. It is looking at a flower and not naming it, hearing the wind without calling it wind, feeling life without wrapping it in words. This nameless seeing is sacred, because when you name something, you divide it, you turn it into a concept, a fragment of reality. But when you simply see, you meet life as it is, whole, unbroken, complete. In this seeing, the world becomes transparent. You see that everything you touch is alive with the same energy. The trees, the clouds, the faces, the spaces between, all of it is one continuous field of awareness. And you are not separate from it. You are not standing outside of life. You are the life that is seeing itself. When this realization touches you deeply, you stop chasing meaning. You stop asking, what is the purpose of life? because you see that life itself is the purpose. To breathe, to feel, to be. This is the miracle. Presence brings simplicity. The noise of goals, ambitions, and fears begins to fade. You start living lightly, not because you renounce the world, but because you finally understand it. You realize that every thought of should and must was a story you were telling yourself. The truth is much simpler. You don't need to become something. You just need to be. When you live in presence, you begin to trust existence again. You no longer need to plan every step. You no longer cling to certainty. You walk with faith, not in belief, but in direct experience. You trust that whatever is unfolding now is exactly what needs to unfold. Trust is the fragrance of presence. When you are truly here, fear disappears, because fear lives in the future and guilt lives in the past. But neither can survive the now. The now is too pure for them to exist. Try this. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let go of every thought that says, I need to do something. For this one moment, simply be. Do not chase the next breath. Do not hold the last. Just rest in this one. Feel how vast it is. Feel how quiet everything becomes. When you stop feeding the noise of thought, the silence you feel is not absence, it is presence. It is awareness recognizing itself. This recognition changes everything. You begin to see that peace is not something to be earned. It is your natural state, covered only by layers of mental movement. When those movements settle, peace rises like a still lake at dawn. In that stillness, you feel whole. You are not reaching for happiness anymore. You are happiness itself, not the emotional kind, but the deep, unmoving contentment that exists without reason. The world outside may still change. Seasons shift, people come and go, circumstances rise and fall, but you remain steady inside. You are no longer the storm. You are the sky that holds it. This is the beginning of true presence. To live as the sky, open and aware, allowing all weather to pass through. The more you rest in this awareness, the more natural it becomes. It stops feeling like a practice and becomes your way of being. You are not doing presence. You are presence. From this still center, you begin to act differently in the world. You respond instead of react. You listen without needing to reply. You see others without projecting your past upon them. You forgive easily because you see that everyone is only acting from unconsciousness. Awareness makes you compassionate, not because you are trying to be kind, but because you cannot be anything else. When you see deeply, you understand, and in understanding, judgment disappears. The world remains the same, but your relationship with it changes completely. You no longer need to control it because you trust it. You no longer need to escape it because you are at peace within it. This is freedom. Not the freedom to have everything you want, but the freedom to no longer need everything you want. Freedom from wanting is the highest joy. It is the joy of being complete. Presence reveals that you were never broken. There was never anything missing. You were just lost in thought, and thought cannot see the whole. Now you have returned to the wholeness of awareness. Now you are whole. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of resistance. It is the stillness beneath all movement, the eternal background that holds the music of life. When you sit in silence, you are not creating peace. You are uncovering it. It was always there, buried under layers of thought, noise, and constant effort. The mind believes that silence is emptiness. But silence is full of awareness, full of presence, full of being. The deeper you enter silence, the more alive everything becomes. Every sound, every breeze, every flicker of light starts to shimmer with quiet significance. It's as though existence itself is whispering its secrets directly to your soul. In the beginning, the silence feels fragile, easily disturbed by thoughts, by memories, by plans. But as you stay still, you realize something extraordinary. The silence was never disturbed. Only your attention was. Thoughts rise and fall like waves, but silence remains untouched beneath them. Just as the ocean floor remains still while the surface ripples in wind, your being remains unmoved beneath the movements of the mind. To live in presence is to live from that depth, to act from stillness, to speak from silence, to move from awareness. It is not withdrawal from the world, it is intimacy with it. When you are silent inside, you are more alive to everything outside. The sound of a door closing, the rhythm of footsteps on stone, the laughter of a child, all become sacred notes in the music of this moment. When awareness awakens, you start to see that time is an illusion. There is no past that you can touch. There is no future that you can reach. There is only this eternal unfolding now. The clock moves, but the now never moves. It is not in time. Time happens within it. All experiences, all stories, all lives are ripples in the still lake of the present. The mind lives in history. The soul lives in mystery. When you live in the now, you live in mystery, not knowing, not controlling, but deeply trusting. You stop asking what comes next and begin to ask, what is this moment asking of me? And often the answer is simple. Be here, breathe, watch, allow. In the space of presence, you no longer fight what is happening. You no longer try to bend reality to fit your desires. You see that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This is not passivity. It is participation without resistance. It is dancing with life instead of struggling against it. When you resist life, you suffer. When you surrender to it, you float. This is the art of still awareness. To remain open, to remain quiet inside. No matter what happens outside, people will ask, how can I live in stillness when the world is noisy? But noise is not the problem. Your identification with it is. You can be surrounded by sound and still remain silent within. Silence is not about the absence of sound. It is about the absence of disturbance. It is when the inner waters of your being are so calm that no ripple of fear or desire can distort the reflection of life. When you are silent inside, you begin to see reality as it is, not colored by judgment, not twisted by expectation, but seen in its simple, sacred truth. You begin to understand that everything you experience is not separate from you. There is no this and that, no me and the world. There is only awareness, appearing as all of it. This recognition is liberation. You are no longer limited to the small story of your mind. You are not the character running through time. You are the screen on which the story unfolds. You stop trying to fix the movie. You start enjoying the show. You watch the scenes of joy, the scenes of sorrow, and you see that all are necessary to complete the story of life. And slowly you start to notice a shift in your being. You laugh more easily. You take yourself less seriously. You move through the day with lightness because you no longer carry the burden of becoming something. The one who always wanted, always worried, always compared, that one begins to fade. And in its place, there is quiet space, vast, infinite, peaceful. This space is not empty. It is awareness itself. It is what you have been seeking in every pursuit, in every success, in every prayer. Presence is not an achievement. It is a return. It is coming home to what you never left. When you live in this awareness, you discover that life is effortless. You still act, but there is no tension in your action. You still think, but the thoughts no longer bind you. You still feel, but the feelings move through freely. You become like the wind, moving, yet unattached, touching everything, yet belonging nowhere. You begin to see that awareness is the only constant. People change, circumstances shift, the body ages, but awareness never changes. It has no beginning and no end. It was there before your first memory, and it will be there after your last breath. When you realize this, death loses its power, because death can only touch what is temporary, and awareness is eternal. You understand that you were never born and you will never die. You are the space in which birth and death appear and disappear. To live with this understanding is to live as freedom. You stop holding, you stop fearing, and you begin to flow like light, unobstructed, unbound, unbroken. From this state, love becomes effortless. Because when you no longer live in time, you no longer bargain with affection. You love not for the future, not for security, not for identity. You love because love is your nature. In the still awareness of now, love flows without condition. Peace blooms without reason, and life reveals itself as sacred. The moment you are truly present, you see, there was never anything missing. There was only absence of seeing. Now, you see, now you are awake. Awareness is not separate from daily life. It is not something you leave the world to find. It is something you bring into the world, into your words, your work, your relationships, your breath. Presence is not escape. It is engagement without attachment. It is living fully, yet remaining free within every experience. You don't need to sit on a mountain to be present. You can practice awareness while drinking coffee, while speaking with someone, while driving, while walking through the noise of the city. Presence is not about where you are. It is about how you are. It is the quality of consciousness you bring to this moment. It is the difference between living life and merely thinking about life. When you bring awareness into simple acts, those acts become sacred. Drinking water becomes meditation. Listening becomes prayer. Silence becomes song. The ego divides life into spiritual and ordinary. Awareness sees no division. Everything becomes spiritual when you do it with total attention. When you walk, walk fully. Feel your feet touching the ground. Feel the rhythm of breath meeting movement. When you listen, listen fully. Do not prepare your reply. Just receive. When you speak, speak slowly. Let your words come from silence, not from the noise of thought. This is awareness in action, not retreating from life, but moving through it with stillness inside. You may still have a job, a family, responsibilities, but now your work is no longer a burden, because awareness transforms effort into flow. You stop dragging the past behind you. You stop racing toward the future. You are simply here doing what needs to be done without the heaviness of I must succeed. Success or failure loses meaning because presence itself is fulfillment. You are not working to become something. You are working as consciousness. Action becomes expression, not ambition. The more present you are, the more intelligent your actions become. Awareness sharpens clarity. When the mind is quiet, your intuition begins to speak. And that voice, soft, steady, effortless, guides you more wisely than all your plans ever could. You begin to notice how life supports you when you stop interfering with it. Events align, timing feels natural. People appear at the right moment. What once seemed like coincidence now feels like harmony, because presence brings you into alignment with existence itself. You are no longer out of rhythm. You are moving with the heartbeat of life. And in that rhythm, there is trust. You no longer need to force outcomes. You no longer need to manipulate. You simply act with awareness and let go. And life takes care of the rest. This is not laziness. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that you are not separate from existence. You are existence expressing itself through a human form. When you live from awareness, your relationships begin to change. Because awareness brings honesty not as morality, but as natural expression. You no longer say what you don't mean, and you no longer promise what you cannot give. You stop playing roles. You stop pretending to be what others want. You start showing up as you are, quiet, authentic, real, and something beautiful happens. You begin to attract people who resonate with your truth. The need for approval fades because connection now happens through presence, not performance. When two aware beings meet, words are not necessary. A look, a pause, a silence. These are enough because awareness recognizes itself in another. This recognition is the birth of real love. A love not based on fear or need, but on shared presence. You love not because of what someone gives you, but because you see yourself in them. Awareness transforms love from possession into participation. You no longer try to own the person you love. you share the moment with them. And when the moment ends, you let it end gracefully, because you know what is real cannot be lost. Awareness also changes how you respond to pain. When suffering arises, you do not resist it. You allow it. You watch it. You feel it. You breathe with it. And slowly it dissolves. Because suffering is not caused by pain. It is caused by resistance to pain. Awareness removes the resistance. It allows you to feel fully. And in feeling fully, the pain transforms. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this showing me? You begin to see pain as purification, a fire that burns away illusion, revealing the diamond of awareness beneath. The more you live from awareness, the less reactive you become. The world may still challenge you, but you no longer lose your center. Someone may insult you, but instead of reacting, you simply observe and you realize that their words say more about their pain than about you. This is power, not the loud power of dominance, but the quiet power of self-possession, the power that comes from knowing that nothing outside can shake what is inside. Presence makes you unshakable, not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer depending on life to complete you. The drama of the world continues, but you are the silent witness, aware, compassionate, untouched. You become a light in the noise, not trying to change people, but simply being clarity among confusion, and your clarity begins to affect others. Your silence becomes invitation. Your presence becomes reminder. In a world obsessed with speed, you become stillness. In a world addicted to words, you become silence. In a world chasing happiness, you become peace. This is not something you decide to do. It happens naturally when awareness flowers. People around you will feel it. The calm, the steadiness, the quiet depth. They won't know why they feel safe near you, but they will, because presence heals without effort. Awareness is contagious. It spreads through energy, through silence, through example. You don't have to preach. You only have to be. When you live in awareness, your life becomes your message. Every movement, every glance, every word carries the fragrance of consciousness. You become like a candle, not trying to light others, but shining so naturally that darkness disappears wherever you are. To live in presence is to realize that enlightenment is not a destination. It is not something that happens one day in a flash of light. It is a slow, gentle awakening, moment by moment, breath by breath. As awareness begins to permeate everything you do, you no longer chase awakening, you relax into it. You realize that every ordinary moment is a doorway to the extraordinary. You begin to see that the divine was never separate from the daily. It was hiding in the obvious, in the way light touches the wall, in the rhythm of footsteps, in the smile of a stranger. And as this seeing deepens, life stops being something to manage. It becomes something to marvel at. You start living with awe, not because life has changed, but because you finally see it as it is. Each moment becomes a miracle, and you, the watcher, become the space in which the miracle happens. When you begin to live in presence, time starts to lose its grip on you. You no longer live as a prisoner of the clock. You wake when you wake. You act when action arises. You rest when rest is natural. You move with the rhythm of existence itself, not ahead of it, not behind it, but with it. This rhythm is timeless. It is not bound by seconds or schedules. It flows like breath, unhurried, perfect, whole. When you live this way, you are no longer chasing life. You are living as life. You discover that being present is not about doing less, but about doing everything with totality. Even the smallest action, pouring tea, folding clothes, looking at the sky, becomes complete in itself. There is no leftover energy, no regret, no, I should have done more. What you do fully, and in that fullness, you are free. The past has no chains on one who is present. The future has no hooks. You walk light because you carry nothing but awareness. This lightness feels like liberation. You start to laugh at things that once caused fear. You smile at your old struggles, not with arrogance, but with understanding. You see that all that worry was a dream you were taking too seriously. Life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. When you live in presence, you are not solving, you are flowing. The more you flow, the less effort you need. Everything begins to align naturally. Situations resolve themselves without struggle. People come into your life exactly when they should. What leaves gently. What stays peacefully. You realize that the universe has always been intelligent. It doesn't need your anxiety to function. It doesn't need your control. It only asks for your trust. Presence is trust. Trust without proof. Faith without belief. Surrender without resistance. The one who is present has found the ultimate faith, not in a God outside, but in the intelligence of life itself. This intelligence moves through everything. The tide, the seasons, the beating of your heart, the expansion of galaxies. And now you move with it consciously. You are no longer separate. You are part of the cosmic dance. To live in presence is to dissolve into the eternal. You are no longer the wave afraid of disappearing. You are the ocean realizing its own depth. Birth and death lose their meaning. They become simple transitions. Waves rising and falling on the same sea. You were never born and you will never die. You have only changed forms again and again, like light passing through glass. When this truth penetrates deeply, fear disappears completely. There is nothing left to protect, nothing left to prove, nothing left to defend. You can finally rest, not in laziness, but in the deep rest of understanding. And from that rest, a new kind of energy arises, an effortless energy, a joyful participation in the game of existence. You act, you create, you love, but the tension is gone. You play your part beautifully, knowing it's just a role, and that behind every mask is the same awareness shining through. Presence makes life light, not shallow, but luminous. You become transparent so that the light of consciousness can move through you freely. You are no longer the doer. You are the instrument through which existence sings. Every action becomes music. Every silence becomes melody. When you live this way, you realize that nothing was ever ordinary. Even the smallest moments are filled with divine presence. The wind brushing your face, the taste of water, the sound of your footsteps, all are sacred.